Hey guys, how you doing? So everyone has read or heard about the male child preference and how India actually prefers the male child and are aborting female fetuses. Now, to be honest, I don't know how far that's true. I'm not saying it's not, but I'm saying that studies have been done, but definitive proof that female fetus is aborted purely because they prefer boys. I'm sorry, it happens in some cases, but not all. Now, the onus is on the ones who state such facts to be true to show conclusive evidence, and I am ready to accept it if it is so. Now, either way, I'm going to start off with the assumption that preference for a son is prevalent in our culture. I repeat, I'm going to start off with the assumption that preference for a son is prevalent in our culture. Now, I will address reasons given for why it happens and give my opinion about it and how we can counteract this. So let's take a look at the most commonly made assertions. So social insecurity is one of the reasons given for preferring a male child. So the first one is social insecurity. According to assertions made, the incidence of violence against women have been increasing in our society. And so fathers and mothers are scared of their daughter's safety and so prefer not to have daughters. Now, they fail to state, though, that men are mostly the victims of public sphere violence. Men are assaulted, murdered, mugged, and commit suicide more than women do. Now, I do not include rape in that because there are no statistics for men being raped in this country. Apparently, a man can't be raped, domestically abused, or sexually assaulted in India. Now, coming back to the matter, what's truly behind this is the fact that we care more about women's safety than we do about men's. Women have always been the gatekeepers of reproduction, and evolutionarily speaking, we would have been wired to safeguard the limiting factor in continuing our species. Men are expected to take care of themselves, as well as protect women, while women are to be protected. This is because we value female life over male life. Now, ever think about why we ask for women and children in hostage situations and evacuate them in the event of a fire or a crash? Because men are disposable while women are not. When women want to be protected from even words, a certain level of your freedoms will get restricted. It's not ideal. This is not utopia. Okay, it's not ideal, but it does happen. And you can't have your cake and eat it too. Men have the freedom to go about anywhere they want, but they also have the responsibility to take care of themselves, to look after their own safety. Now, there is no evidence to suggest that women are more likely to be victims of violence in the public sphere, except for the biased feminist studies. I'm not going to take the NCRB, the National Crime Records Bureau statistics into consideration because a lot of what could be termed as violence against men are not even in law. So no, don't give me those numbers. You make the laws gender neutral and then you give me those numbers and I'll accept it. Now, it's just a perception based on who we care about and want to protect more. Now, showing people the truth that men are more likely to be victims of public sphere violence might actually change people's mind to having more female children if fear of social insecurity is indeed a reason for having a preference for a son. The second reason is that daughters get married off to another family and thus will not be part of the family anymore, and that the sons are the ones that stay in the family and pass on their generation, wealth, and so on. Now, this system is what is called female exogamy. Now, this was spoken about in Robert Sapolsky's lecture on human behavior, so I'm going to borrow a lot of his lecture to explain why we evolved with this system. It wasn't a system created by patriarchy or something we defined ourselves. So what I'm going to do is we're going to look at two different systems, female and male exogamy, and compare the two. So the female exogamy is when the females leave the group, and male exogamy is when males leave the group. So what we're going to do is we're going to compare the two. Before I get into it, I'd just like to touch up on the models of evolution. There are two models that are important in this particular situation. Usually the models are individual selection, kin selection, reciprocal altruism, and sexual selection. So this is much like a sliding scale. All right. So what is given most importance is individual selection, which is then followed by kin selection. So the greatest importance is given to individual selection, prioritizing oneself over anything else. Kin selection comes in second, which is basically you supporting your siblings and genetic relatives. So we don't really, I'm not going to get into the others for now. Just remember this, kin selection is given importance in the evolutionary models right after individual selection. Now, so back to explaining why we have female exogamy. In our primates, cousins, one gender of the species moves to another group around puberty. This is, of course, to avoid inbreeding, so as to not be born with 6 fingers, or a tail, or a horn and such. Now, in chimps, it's the females who leave at puberty, so female exogamy, and in baboons, it's the males who leave at puberty, so male exogamy. So if you look at baboons, the adult males and adult females, if you look at them, the adult females grew up in that group. The adult males, however, grew up somewhere else and immigrated into this group at puberty. In other words, among the adult females in the group, they're all relatives. Among the males, there are no relatives. Meanwhile, with the chimps, it's the females who leave at puberty. So you look at the mature animals in the group, and it's the males who are there with all their relatives, who have been there all their life, and the females who have no relatives. So comparing baboons and chimps, baboons with male exogamy and chimps with female exogamy, which of those species do you think has higher levels of male-on-male aggression within the group? Now the right answer is baboons, because the adult males in baboon groups are not related to each other in any way or form. So what we see is high levels of infighting in the group, in groups like baboons. In chimps, however, in-group violence is comparatively less, as they are mostly relatives in the group. So harming each other would not do much help to you or your the copy of your genes. So this is where kin selection comes in. So all the violence is concentrated on other groups. So what we see in chimps is group cooperation to attack other groups. So in chimps, we can see things that are termed now as border patrols, where a bunch of males actually form a group and they'll patrol the edge of their territory. So, and if they encounter a male from another group, what they do is they'll attack him, they'll drive him away, and in some cases even kill him. This is even taken to an extreme where the males of one group actually eradicate the males of another group entirely. So male genocide. They don't kill the females though, because reproduction factors, reproduction. So yeah. Anyway, now organized males driven by female exogamy in chimps is basically where the warfare patterns come from. So this can also be seen in the military, where non-relatives are convinced to pseudo-kinship themselves into being a band of brothers. So what they're doing is increasing the sense of kinship. They're increasing that sense of brotherhood. They're creating this pseudo level of telling yourself that this is your brother, he's a copy of your gene, so you should be supporting him, you should die for him, and so on. So now we can make sense of which primate species actually have high levels of male-male aggression within group versus between groups. So you get intergroup organized conflict in primates that have female exogamy, and intragroup when it's male exogamy. So hypothetically, if these two species were to encounter each other, the ones who have more in-group cohesion, chimps, would naturally overrun the baboon group, which lack group cohesion in any way or form. When looking at the human species, scientists have been studying how our ancestors migrated from one place to another all throughout history. Now think about this. As we had more organized groups of males due to female exogamy, we would have been ready to face other species as a cohesive group to survive. I believe this is the model that ensured that we would master the new environments we migrated to. So yeah, this is not some system devised by patriarchy. This is what worked best and aided us in becoming the dominating species on this planet. So if you want to overthrow that, go ahead and try. I think we're halfway there, because nowadays nuclear families are a thing. So I think we're halfway there. Let's just keep going at it. We'll reach there sometime or the other. Now, the other reason mentioned is dowry. For those of you who do not know what dowry is, it is a monetary or material gift, and sometimes both, given to the groom's family by the brides. Now, dowry is illegal in India and has been since 1983, but the practice still exists. While the initial system of dowry was to send the woman with money to utilize in case of emergency such as husband dying or disowning her. In the present day, there are demands from the groom's family based on his economic and social status. Now, because of dowry, many parents consider daughters as liabilities and often start saving up for a marriage. This is what the assertion is. Now, this might be happening in place. I'm not saying it's not. But they also do send their kids to study. Now, my problem with dowry is this. The bride's family also make demands of the groom. Most common demands are that he's bringing in a certain amount of money, the price of the car he owns, or the car that he owns, the size of the house. Now, they even look at how many other properties he owns. I've been in this situation before. I've had one proposal which obviously declined, where the mother of the bride actually asked my mom how many properties my dad owns, which is going to be passed on to me because I'm technically the only son. And yeah, so this is not a one-way street. They want to know that their girl is taken care of. That if she doesn't want to work, that she'll be looked after by the man. So, and there are also cases where the bride's family asks for specific gifts as well for themselves and their relatives. Now, add to this that while giving and taking dowry has been illegal for more than 40 years, people still do participate in this custom from both sides. Now, it only becomes a problem for the bride and her family when the marriage turns sour, after which they want the dowry back and in several cases also want maintenance and child support. I've always said it and I will say it again. If the guy demands dowry, the bride and her family have all the right and the choice of refusing that particular alliance. You know, what else do you want the government to do about it? Monitor every single alliance that happens in India? The easiest way to do this is to refuse marriage to those who ask for dowry and at the same time stop having such high expectations on guys. I think dowry was a system that morphed into demands from the groom to negate the fact that women look for mates that are socially and financially above them, which is termed hypergamy. So, why not marry a guy who's below your social and financial status, and you can look after his financial needs? You won't have to give him dowry. Now, once the female takes on the entire family, financial responsibility of the family, maybe, possibly, people would prefer having a girl child, wouldn't they? I don't know. We'll have to see, I guess, if that ever happens. The fourth and final one I have come across is that there is an assumption that daughters do not look after their parents and that they need a son to look after them in their old age. And there are feminists and other women who say that women are more than capable of looking after her parents during her old age and such. You know what? They can. And I agree, they are capable of it. I'm not saying they're not. But that's not what you should be doing. You shouldn't just be stating they're capable of it. This is what you should be doing. Help delete the legal obligation that sons have to their parents to look after them in their old age. And while you're doing that, also delete the legal entitlements females get from their fathers. You don't know which one I'm talking about, do you? According to the letter of the law, if a man has a female child, he is financially liable to look after her until she has gotten married or gotten a job. If she chooses not to do either of those things, she is entitled to be looked after by the father. The other one you need to delete is the legal obligation sons have to look after their parents. Parents can actually sue their sons for not looking after them during their old age, while they cannot sue their daughters. Strange, isn't it? While the rights of a man to work and the woman to work are the same, the legal and social obligations all fall on the man. You want to know why people want sons? It's because sons are socially obliged to look after them. He's a workhorse who has to look after his parents, his wife, and his kids all by himself. That's what the law says. And what are laws but societal expectations written in to be enforced by the all-powerful government? So let's look at all the points on how to counteract son preference in India. Number 1. Tell people the truth about who's more prone to be on the receiving end of public sphere violence and ask everyone to stop caring for your safety. Ask everyone to take care of your own safety. Or you know what? Ask them to protect men from now on. Replace the laws that benefit women and protect women, and replace it with the by protecting men. Maybe then people would want daughters. 2, I don't know how you're going to overhaul the system that ensures our survival in new terrain. But again, like I said, you're halfway there. Nuclear, families are a thing now. But yeah, point 4 tags along with this anyway. I'll keep going. Point 3, marry someone who's below your financial status and social status in order to actually be the breadwinner of the family, take on all the responsibility, and maybe people start preferring girl childs after this. Number 4, change the social and legal obligations that fathers have for their daughters. Switch them around. Parents should be made legally responsible for their son all through their life if they choose not to get a job or get married, and women should be made legally responsible for their parents in their old age. Honestly though, in all honesty, seriously, either delete the obligations altogether or the obligation should be forced on both men and women. Now, so try and follow the aforementioned 4 steps and watch the magic happen. And you know what, you've got any other better ideas, put them forward. I'm happy to actually listen to it and take into consideration. I'm going to end it with this. When you define women by a list of entitlements and a man by a list of obligations, what do you think was going to happen? The reason I would say a lot of people prefer his son is because he's a workhorse, someone who can repay the resources spent on him. When a person makes an investment, they have to assess if they would benefit from the investment. The laws and societal norms that dictate that women benefit in many different forms makes that return of investment impossible unless the woman chooses to do so, while men are obliged and legally forced to do so. There are women who look after their parents and there are men who don't, but the difference is that men who don't can be legally held responsible, and socially as well, while the woman who does not cannot be held legally or socially responsible. Now, it's not purely about giving the rights to women and empowering them. What should be done alongside it is to force on the responsibilities that men have had all throughout history and still do in the present day, force it on women, and then maybe we can see how it goes. Anyways, that's it for today, guys.